Julie, thank you so much for coming to the podcast. So appreciate you being here.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you because you are kind of like, ah. Um, I know Julie such a long time. I mean, no, personally, but on the internet from the time she didn't have kids or she lived in New York and she was just a scrapbooker or doing things like that. To tell the truth, Julie, I don't even remember when I came up to your blog. It was such a long time ago. And I think you were in your 30s.
Mm,
And I was in my 30s as well because you are younger than me, but kind of the similar spectrum, right? Um, but it was such a long time ago. But first, tell people what you do and where are you speaking from?
I live outside of Boston and I am a mixed media artist. And a big part of my business, Balzer Designs, is really helping other artists to find their voice. I
Mhm.
think one of the things about me is that I am always interested in that old adage, right? If you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. So I think
Mhm.
across the classes that I teach, the YouTube videos I do, whatever it is, they're all about like giving you the tools, empowering you to really be your own teacher sort of as you go through so that you can find your own style and learn. I often have people who don't create the kind of art I do or think the art that I make is ugly, which they've even said to my face. Um, but I'm a good teacher for them because I'm teaching ideas
Mhm.
rather than sort of like copy what I do.
Mhm. And I'm so excited to dive into this. And I'm actually going to post another podcast that you've been on that you talk a little bit more about your backstory back
Mhm.
in the day. And you work with theater. I know that much. And people can learn about your story to where you go. But I want to talk about this. I want to talk about the amazing things you do because I think they're so important. And how, yes, like I'm so attracted to your style, and I said to you many times that, but I don't want to do what you do. But the great thing is, I learned a ton from you. I continue to learn because we do coaching, and I have to say I grew up a lot, and especially because of boot camp, which we're gonna talk about. But just a little bit of the past is just like I found you because your blog. And at that time, blog was big, right? Blog was like huge. We didn't have Instagram, we didn't have Facebook. And what do you remember? What made you think, "Oh, I'm going to start a blog and this way people start finding you and you see like, "Oh, this is working." Like,
I would say like everything in my business has been accidental rather than purposeful. That's the story. That's the story of how things rolled out. I resisted starting a blog for a long, long time because I am not a particularly like public sharer. And I guess the way that I would say that is like no one in my family has a Facebook page. I am the only person. I have a business Facebook page, but like we're just not those like public sharers. So everybody was doing blogs and I was like, "Oh, I don't want to share. I don't want to share. I don't share." And then one day I figured out that you don't actually have to like share everything in your life on a blog, that a blog could actually be about a particular aspect of your life. So I made kind of a rule for myself back in 2006 when I started my blog, which is I said, if I went to the zoo, I wouldn't share pictures of the visit to the zoo. I would share art that I made inspired by the trip to the zoo.
yes.
And that was kind of a really clear line that I set for myself in the sand that really helped me early on when I like kind of wanted to overshare all of a sudden because, you're getting feedback from people and it's exciting. And so then they ask questions and you want to answer their questions, but I had to kind of find a line in the sand for myself. But anyway, the shorter answer to your question is, so I really just started as a place because I wanted to share with other people. It wasn't ever going to be a business.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was just like, a place to sort of share thoughts, and I like writing and all that kind of stuff. And then over time, it grew into a real conversation that I
Mhm.
could have, with my people out there who are like me, my tribe.
Mhm. And I'm showing him the blog. But what amazes me that you say I was not thinking about being a blog, but you were such a prolific, blogger because you blog almost every day, and there's so much content in this blog. And I'm showing the blog right now here, and certainly put a link. And you can find so much in this blog. And I think if I'm not wrong, what I found you about was because of our journal, because you have this column, I think it's every Friday, right? About art journal. And what attracted to me at first to you was your art journal, because I always dreamed that I could have a journal, beautiful, and also write every day, which I can never have. I have a journal, but I'm very bad at writing every day. And when I saw that, I thought, oh my gosh, we can actually like write in this pretty and artsy thing. And so I started to, follow the art journal column, and and from there things just scale from that. But it's just a lot of content. So I would advise people here. I'm showing that she has a search here, and she also has the tags and everything, but you can find everything that you think about on the blog. And you share also other artists, what is inspire you, what happened in the month, and in terms of what is happening in your life right now.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I try to say, like, I think the way I think of myself is I live an artful life, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So art is woven into the fabric of the things that I do. And I do still try to keep that line of pretty much keeping like sharing art first, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then if there's anything personal, it's usually art related, or, how that has how art has affected my life. I mean, one of the things that I know you and I have talked about, Jenna, and that I really believe is that when you are able to become brave in your art, you can become brave in your life. When
Yeah.
you are able to, heal things in your art, you can heal in your life. And I was talking to a client this morning, and she was mentioning that she has been a person who has always tried to had to like pick up the pieces of
Mm-hmm.
things that have happened and like, hold the family together and all that kind of stuff. And oddly enough, what she likes to do in her art is to like deconstruct and reconstruct things again,
Mm-hmm.
put the pieces back together. And so who we are and the experiences we have are not far away, from the kind of art that we make and are attracted to. And so so much of what I'm interested in and hope that I'm teaching people is about knowing yourself actually becomes about understanding the art that you want to make.
Mm-hmm. And when do you think it happened that you thought, okay, I'm doing this, I'm sharing, but now I want to teach?
It also happened accidentally, right? Like I wish that I had had a master plan. But this is one of the things that's so sort of odd. This career sort of happened to me. It was a
Mm-hmm.
hobby. Um, People started asking me to teach, and I was making a living at that time as a director. And being a
Mm-hmm.
theatrical director is essentially like being a teacher, right?
Yeah.
You are, helping the actors toward certain ideas. You're breaking things down. You're helping the
Mm-hmm.
playwright, hone their script. I mean, there's just sort of a lot of stuff like that. And so teaching was kind of a natural extension of a lot of the stuff that I was doing anyway. So
Mm-hmm.
when people asked me to teach, I was like, I bet I can do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but
And then I
also
really
requires
enjoyed it.
a level of confidence, right? Because you had to have confidence that you had the knowledge, and then that your work was good. Where do you think that came from?
Um, I mean, hubris, first of all. I mean, none of us have good work at the beginning, right? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think that confidence is a funny thing, right? Because confidence is perceived often rather than felt. That's the
Mm-hmm.
whole fake it till you make it thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the beginning, I needed tools to make me feel confident. I would over prepare for classes. I
Mm-hmm.
had, you know, PowerPoint slides, and I had prepared exercises, and I had timed out how long things would take me, and I had, like copious notes. And then over time you realize that you need less of it because of experience. And I think this is true when you're making art, right? When you first start to make art, you buy a color wheel and you refer back to it constantly,
Mm-hmm.
and then less, and then not at all. And I think teaching is the same thing, right? We all know that there are artists who are great artists and terrible teachers, or there are people who are great teachers and terrible artists. So I don't think that you need to kind of be both. You just need to be the right fit for what it is that people are looking for, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that confidence, and I know this is something you and I talk about a little bit
Mm-hmm.
quite often. Um, Confidence is a mixture of being prepared
Mm-hmm.
and having some amount of willingness to fake it till you make it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think it's a constant, even if you don't feel like it, you have to keep doing it.
Yes.
And I guarantee that's something that is true because it's been working with me.
Yeah.
And but sometimes we need some harsh words.
Well, it's the same thing, right? As like we all are looking at other people and how other people behave and assuming
Yes.
things about them when we don't actually know what's going on kind of inside. It's the same as like you can look at somebody's life through Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, or their blog and think that they have one kind of life. And then all of a sudden the next week they announce they're getting divorced and you're like, what? This marriage, this guy, this thing that you've been, and it's because you don't actually know,
Mm.
right? People are presenting a certain view of their lives, and the same thing is true about, you think everybody else is confident, or everybody else is selling a painting every single day, or everybody else is,
Mm-hmm.
do you know what I mean? And the thing is, very little of what you see on the internet is true.
Yeah.
It's everybody's highlight reel, and sometimes it's just flat out fake, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that if you can take all of that with a grain of salt, then you're in a better position,
Mm-hmm.
because you're not letting the comparison sort of eat you away.
So something that was really fascinating to me is that in all these years that I follow you, I think your style evolved so much, but at the same time it's the same. It's the same, I think, in the bold colors, in the shapes, or this kind of impactful art. But evolved because all this that I talked about, it came in different things. It came in faces, then, you did other things, then you decided to do printing, then you do, and now you're doing waving. And so you go through this, I don't know, waves of like, let me try this. Because I think something that I'm really fascinated with your work is that you are very curious and you try different things. And also, I think as a teacher, you have to be that because I don't believe, I used to teach Photoshop. So, like, if I was not curious and watch things and what's coming up on Photoshop or try new things, you just keep, teaching the same thing. And who wants that? And so my question would be like, in that, when you were starting to create, and I know you create, your mother always is a big part of this, you said she took you to museums and you have all that kind of experiences, but your art always kept like very bold. Was that something that really attracted you since the beginning?
I really subscribe to this old Ira Glass chestnut, which is that when you start making art, the reason you're frustrated is because your taste is far superior to your skills. And you can't reach, what your taste is, because your skills aren't there. So I think that for most of us, I mean, so many people go in search of what's my style, what's my style, what's my style. And I spend a lot of time with people working on their style. And almost always the answer is, it's the Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz. You've had it with you. You've had the power all along,
Yeah.
right? It isn't a magical thing that you choose. It's sort of always been there. So I think the reason that I have a particular style is because my taste has kind of always been the same. My skill has evolved, the
Mm.
formats of, in which I pursue this, but like the aesthetic tastes of the things that I like are the things that I like,
Mm-hmm.
and they haven't dramatically changed. So whether I'm weaving or doing printmaking or
Right.
abstract
It's the
painting
same
or
taste. Yeah.
collage, same taste.
That's a great way to put it. Yeah. Now I totally get it. Yeah. And where this curiosity comes from? Why are you always emerging with new things?
Well, now that I have a 2-year-old, and so as I talk to him, as my parents talk to me, I realize, because we all become our parents, whether we want to or not.
Yeah.
I realized that I think I grew up with in a questioning household, right? Where
Mm-hmm.
I would ask a question and I would get a question back.
Mm-hmm.
Or my parents would ask me, how do you feel about that? What do you think about that? What are you, how are you going to fix that?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think like I grew up in a questioning culture, so that's really important,
Yeah.
because that makes
Mm-hmm.
you curious. But also I think I was so I dropped so my son goes to daycare 3 days a week. And the other morning, there's construction going on right across from the daycare. And so he wanted to stop and look at the construction trucks. So we stood at the fence for like 15 minutes watching the construction trucks and kind of talking about them. And so many people whipped behind us, dropping their kids, pulling their kids behind them. Like nobody stopped to look at the construction trucks. And kids love construction trucks. And I went home and I thought about it and I was like, why did I do that? And I was like, because I valued his interest
Mm-hmm.
above my time,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm.
And if
Yeah.
you value someone else's interest above your time, then they learn that they can follow their interests.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That they're allowed to
Yes.
do that. And so I think, I was there, but I don't remember a lot of it. I think my parents did a lot of that when I was a kid. And so I think that also made me feel comfortable with the idea that curiosity is valuable,
Mm-hmm.
and be pursued. So
Yeah.
certainly all that stuff was there.
Um, you know, in my house, and I'm showing here
Hmm.
Julie's amazing Instagram because the color just makes me happy. Um, and I think as we scroll down here, we can see the examples of what we are talking about. You have carving, you have printmaking, you have here art journal, collage. You just, had recently, we had in December Carve December, which is a huge thing. Many people collaborate with that and participate. And it's been great also to see him. But it's
Hmm.
amazing what you said because kids, they have such a curiosity, but also they have that thing that we miss, which is like, I'm just doing for the fun, right?
Yes.
Of course, later when they grow up, when they start to get a little sense of more self, they start to do things to see if the mother parent are happy with it, which instinct that thing that, am I doing this for you? If we could only be like children, we would
Right.
certainly
But
suffer
I
less.
think that I think that you can do it for yourself, which just like I said, I'm valuing his curiosity over my time. What if you valued your own curiosity over your time? So
Yes.
instead of thinking like that you had to get something done or finished, or the most hated question I ever get online, and people ask me this at least once a day, is what are you going to do with that?
Yes.
And I could give a 20-minute speech on why that's a problematic question, but I will just say that I think that if you value your own curiosity over your time, you will be a creative person. You will be a person who follows their curiosity.
Okay, you have all that, but you take very seriously, not seriously, but you know a lot about design. And there was a moment in your social media you were talking a lot about it and how you were really deep inside that work to give you more freedom, right? So, and I think that is such a missing thing nowadays because you don't see a lot of artists talking about that, the importance of that, right? They have all these people that maybe want to create like them, but they don't talk about the importance to know these foundations. And I was just editing a podcast to release today when we are recording this with Debbie Hodge, which is an old friend of mine that I met through scrapbooking, and I was actually in her team, but now she has an embroidery business, and she knows a lot about design because on that time with Get Scrap, she did a lot of books about design, color, contrast to help on scrapbook pages. And today we don't see a lot of that. So we were talking about how actually her background knowing design helped her to put together the embroidery, things that she does. So how this came to you, like I need to know more about design and this is important to me and I have to spread that out.
I think that there has been, I mean, this is a sort of a complicated big topic, so let me break it down into a couple of pieces to make it a little more straightforward. So the first thing is the parts of learning that are hard are the technical ones.
Yeah.
It's like doing calisthenics. It's kind of boring. It's painful. You can be really bad at it or not get it. You know what I mean? When I offer a 3-hour class on color mixing, nobody shows up. If I offer a 3-hour class on,
Jelly
making
printing.
collage paper,
Yeah.
150 people show up, and like the making collage paper is fun and you get a product at the end and you're
Right.
just sort of like you're there, you're making things and you're having a good time. The color mixing is like you have to think and it's hard, and then you end up with this color wheel and you should bring it home, to show your family, and they're like, that's what you did for 3 hours. It's not sexy. But if you ask me, you can take 100 classes on making collage papers and you will never be a better artist. You need to spend your time in the calisthenics. But the thing is, people don't want to sign up for those classes. And so I think, like, if you want to make a living teaching art, then you teach a lot of what I call the frosting classes.
Yeah.
It's not how to make the cake. It's not why cakes structurally work. It's not the chemistry of baking. It's not, any of that. It's just, let's make some pretty roses for the top of this cake. Because that's the sexy part, right? That's the part they show in the, TikTok video. That's the part they show in the, and so I get it. We all want frosting. And so if you want to make a living, you teach frosting classes. So then that's what people digest. So then that people think that that is making art. So then they don't understand that there's this whole structure underneath. And I think, so that's sort of like that side of it. And then I also think that a lot of people have fear of making art and don't feel creative. And so one of the things that I know as a teacher that I do and other people do is you say, forget about the outcome, forget about the rules, just, have fun and relax. And that's a great way to get people started. The problem is a lot of people then don't take it to the next step,
level,
which is you have to then, after you've made the mess and gotten the cathartic out and changed your canvas from white to colorful, like have some sort of tools to pull it back in. And so I think what happened to me is I ended up in a situation where, like, I would take these classes, these intuitive painting classes or whatever else, and I would like make these things, but I didn't understand why I was doing anything. I couldn't figure out when to stop. I couldn't figure out like what was good and what was bad. I didn't know what to do next. I was just making stuff up to do it. And I was never particularly satisfied with the end result. And so I was like, I need some help. And so I am a great believer in teaching yourself. It's obviously the huge methodology behind everything I teach. Ironically, everything I teach is to basically make me lose money. So you need to stop coming to take classes from me because I'm going to teach you how to teach yourself. But that's the deal. And so I was like, well, let's go back to basics. And so I started a really deep dive into the design elements and principles and really understanding them and then figuring out how that sort of worked out into the work that I wanted to do. And, it's all a process, but I now feel like I mean, it's a dangerous thing to say. I feel like I know what I'm doing and that feels good. Like I know how to make the next decision in a painting. I understand why something didn't work when I look back.
Analyze that. Yeah.
Yes. I can tell you why I like a particular piece of work and I don't like another. And I can use words that other people can understand. I mean, one of the things when I was a theatrical director that we always used to say is that, or I always used to say, is that, you can't give a note to an actor that was like, that sucks. That was terrible. Because that's not helpful, right? That's not helpful in any way. But you can say to them, when you were crying, it didn't feel real. And I wonder if you found a way to connect
more
with
specific,
her more, so that you're giving them something that's actually doable. And so the same thing is true as a teacher, which is I can't say to you, Jana, this painting doesn't work. I have to be like, okay, let's find a language that we can communicate in, and say like the proportions are off. If you made this flower larger and this one smaller, I think you'd have a more
Yeah.
balanced, piece. And that's
Hmm.
useful because that's something you can do. And so what
Yes.
design elements and principles do is they give you those words, that language, those tools, so that you can fix your work, so that you can make it whatever it is that you want it to be.
And it's interesting because this is the most what people talk about, like on Facebook groups that I am or things like that. And people are like, I just want to learn to do myself. I just want to learn. Yes, there is a percentage of people that they just want to have fun. They just want to do that particular project that the person is teaching them, and that's fine. They are having fun. But many people want to grow in their art. It doesn't mean particularly they want to sell, but they just want to grow. And I see so many people say, "Oh, but I don't know. I don't have." I, with me, um, I reached out to you because I was in that point that I was like, that frustration was building up, but it's like I was tired of like, oh, I thought that class was so interesting because the work seems interesting, right? And you want to learn like, okay, not just how do I get to do like you do, but like how do you get to that, maybe that soft kind of acrylics or that blending, right? And when I went to the classes, it's just basically like this is this particular thing, and that's it. And I was like, well, but what if I want to create something else, but use a technique? How I was getting like so frustrated because I was like, no, I don't want to copy what you do. Especially for me, I did a lot of like acrylics classes because I have this struggle with acrylics, which is getting better. But I discovered that if I have a grunge with acrylics, I bought a sketchbook and I just started painting acrylics because I saw that they were not helping me. I remember a long time ago, I used to live in New Jersey. I went to Pennsylvania to do a scrapbooking class. A person very well known, and she doesn't do scrapbook anymore. But I went there so excited. This person, I loved her work. And I went there, we received the materials, but then the class was to repeat whatever the design was that she made. And everybody, I think there was like 30 people in the classroom, had the same design. Like everybody shows up, but it's the same thing. It's kind of like this paint and wine classes that everybody has the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like kind of frustrated, but like I traveled like 2 hours to go there, and I
Mm-hmm.
felt like, okay, I paid all this money, I drove 2 hours,
Mm-hmm.
and I came with something that everybody else did the same.
Yeah, and the thing that's so interesting is for some people, that is what they want.
Yes, absolutely.
And they are mad when they come to class and they don't actually recreate whatever you made.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And so I think, again, like you have a job as a student. This is the same as you have a job as an artist to know what you like and what you don't like. So if what you want is to copy somebody's project, then you should find the teachers who do that.
Yeah.
If what you want is to copy someone's techniques, then you should find the teacher who does that. If what you want is to be, pushed, then you need to find the teacher who does that. I often say, like, the hardest thing that you will do as an artist is like meet yourself. Really look at yourself and say,
Mm,
like, who am I? What do I want? And I think like
mm,
once you start to think about those questions and you have a better sense of like what your learning style is, who would be a good teacher for
yeah.
you, who, you know what I mean, what kinds of colors you're attracted to. I mean, all of it comes from knowing who you are.
Yeah, so amazing because it makes me remember the first coaching session that we had. It was really like, man, I deserve that. It was so like, okay, I deserve to listen all that. But you asked me that, and it was just like, what? Why are you asking me this? Why I paid for this?
Yeah,
It
it's
was tough.
hard.
It was really hard. It was tough. I'm not saying that first session was really hard.
It's hard. And like, I think like that's the thing that happens again and again for people, which is it you think that you can be separate from the work you put out, but I mean, the job of an artist is to take the world, to take everything that comes at you and to basically like filter it through yourself, to
Yeah.
synthesize it into something new so that people have a new perspective of, you know, what you're seeing. And I think that what so often happens is that we don't
Mm-hmm.
take that step, do you know what I mean, of putting
Mm-hmm.
it through ourselves. And so then what we make doesn't sort of have significance, or it doesn't feel fresh, or it doesn't have a point of view. And all of
Mm.
that is because you're scared of putting it through the filter that is
Yes.
you. You
Yes.
are unique and wonderful and fabulous, and the history of everything that has happened to you has made you uniquely you, and it's not something to hide from, you know.
Well, I think also is a thing, even not if we take art aside, I I do therapy with someone every week, and it is hard to confront the questions. Sometimes she has questions to me, and I'm like, huh, I didn't think about that. And then I'm like, wow, some some questions made me cry because you know what you have to confront, right? This is in all, I think, our life. And that's why
Mhm.
actually we'd go talk to someone. And I
Mhm.
think everybody should, but it's just like because that person make questions of sides of you that you don't know. It's the same, I think, why it's important to have coaching. And we're gonna talk about the coaching a little bit. I just wanna show here, I'm showing here your YouTube, and I think this is a clear example while we are talking because in your YouTube you have scan cut, then you have the stencils because you are also a stencil designer, and you have jelly print. So what it shows here is that we can get better in all kinds of things, and we can do all kinds of things that related to what we want. If I wanna play with colors and values, I can choose to do that in any kind of aspect. It doesn't have to do just painting. It can be weaving. It can be printmaking. It can be, you know, doing all kinds of things. With the jelly plate and layers and stenciling, you can do values with stenciling. So it's a kind of that all-rounded thing that goes back to what you said. It's about what we want, right? So,
Mhm.
so when you thought about, okay, I'm teaching, I have all these wonderful followers, and I know there's a lot of people that follow you like me, that follow you for a long time. And you thought, okay, I feel that I need to help these people more. I need to go deeper. I need to go one on one with them and help them to kind of don't get stuck. Where do you think, like, okay, I want to do coaching? Because coaching is not for everyone. it's
Mhm.
it's kind of a very intimate things. You talk about hard stuff, and but you said no, I'm don't want to do just classes and help the majority of people. I want to go like deep inside of what people really want and help them.
Well, a lot of it came out of I was getting questions from people that were too big to it's too big for an email. It sort of can't really dive into it in a class setting with other people.
Mm-hmm.
It's the kind of thing where, you need that sort of one-on-one thing happening. And so that's kind of where that all came from, is that I couldn't figure out how to deal with these questions that came up that were too big, you know
Mm.
and so coaching is the perfect place to do that, because you really, you get an hour of time, which is really just 100% about you, with, very personalized homework, with, thinking about whatever your particular problems are. And I do think that I enjoy the group coaching too, which I know you
Yeah.
participate in as well, because I think there is also value, of course, in like, I have one particular point of view, and I'm not shy about that. I have strong opinions, about certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but when there's a group, the thing that's nice is there's more varied opinions. So we're still diving deep into something. We're still
Yeah.
particularly talking about you, but now you have multiple points of view as opposed to just a single one. So I think there's a lot of value there
Yeah,
too.
and what Julie's talking about is that because she has a monthly membership, which is, if you are in the higher level, we have a group coaching, and she does a live stream every month for if you're in the basic level, which is $5.99. And she also does studio vlog and her, vlogs of her life as well, how her week goes, because it was very famous on YouTube, and now you have them on the membership. And I think by the comments, I think people wait for this home. I know I wait for, especially for the vlog, for the studio. But it's so nice to also see your life. You go more, with more intimate stuff for the members that pay that. And yeah, and I agree. In the monthly live group coaching, I make my effort to be there every time. And it's just so wonderful to be with other ladies and discuss that, because it's sometimes you have people don't see. Sometimes you have ladies like, to me, it's wonderful. And she's like, I don't know. And also to see what they're exploring. I love that, because when you are with the same people, sometimes I'm like, wow, it's so great that she's exploring and want to grow and doing that. And it's just amazing. But what have you been learning from this coach? And while Julie talks, I'm going to show here the classes that she has.
So, one of the things that is interesting is coaching is different than teaching.
Yes.
Which should be obvious, but coaching is very different than teaching. So it's a different set of skills.
Yes.
And so this is going to sound so weird, but like one of the things that has been sort of a steeper learning curve for me about coaching is how to take notes. Because I want to be very present with the person. So I want to like look at them. But on the other hand, like I need to make notes for myself to be able to remember and to like do some thinking about like what kind of homework would be good or how I can sort of help them. And so sort of trying to balance out like eye contact versus scribbling, you know what I mean, is kind of has been an interesting thing. And then just also like how I keep the notes. And I've gone back and forth from like a notebook to loose papers, because sometimes one of the things that happens is like, I'll see something, Janet, and it reminds me of you. Or like I have a client who's working on a particular project, and every now and then something comes up in my Instagram feed where I'm like, I need to send this picture to her, and stuff like that. And so trying to figure out how to keep the notes for that kind of sort of ongoing one-on-one coaching has been a really steep learning curve. I think I'm better at it than I was.
It's kind of like when you go to physical therapy, and sometimes it got me annoyed when I would go to physical therapy and they spend most of time writing, because they do have to write notes for the insurance, than being with you. And I have other physical therapists that they would not write anything at all while with me. And after, how you do your notes, and say, after you go, I already have on my schedule 10 minutes and I do that. Or sometimes while I'm doing an exercise, they would be there on the computer, but always when I finished, they were present with me. So it is and they always said to me that it is a curve to learn how to do that. And from that, I think came boot camp, and I want so much to talk about boot camp.
Yeah, if you go
here at boot camp.
Boot camp really was and is probably my favorite thing that I do every year. And I think it's because everybody in class has like a breakthrough, a moment. Like it's a really sustained period of time. The class is really small. It's just 10 people. So you really get to know everybody and know everybody's style. And so it has been probably one of my favorite teaching experiences of all time.
Well, let me brag about boot camp because you want. So I don't know. It seems for people on my podcast, I already talk about bootcamp. They may probably sick and tired of it. But now that I'm with you, the creator of bootcamp, I can say that bootcamp was transformational. And I wished I had made before, because it would save me so much money. So much money. So much money, you won't believe it. You won't believe it. And we'll put this note here. As you said, not everybody wants to go to that route.
Yes.
But we are talking here now about something that when people want to go forward, when they want to do deep work. And when I was doing the first boot camp, I think I was posting on social media, I was posting, I would make sure to say to everybody, this is not a class. I don't, I didn't see at that time, and I don't see because I am going to the number 2. And I don't see it as a class. I don't even know what to call it. I know it's called boot camp. But so people could understand when I was posting, I was like, this is not a class. It's not about teaching me. I mean, it taught me, but it's not like, Jana, paint like this, right? Because what is fabulous is that we have 10 people and they were all different. They're all different. And it was just, I don't have words to explain. It was amazing because not just you went deep inside of design, right? It is the way you do it, the discussions that we have with other people. I think that 2 times a week that we meet and we have that profound discussions about our homeworks. Because yes, we have very hard, I want to go and hide homework. But when we commit to do it, and not everybody that does bootcamp do it, but when we commit to do it, and then when we see what other people did it, I think that's what grew me more. You kind of like, oh, okay. I was like hitting my head so much of this homework. Right? And then you go there and do again, maybe lighter, or maybe like, okay, let me just, don't take this so seriously. And I have to say, some parts were emotional. I had hard moments that I cried and it was like, wow, So I left the first boot camp with this sense of, I can do this, but not because, yes, you can do it every day, blah, blah, blah. I can do this, but if I put work on it. And I now have a set of things to help me. And I became this nuts about design because I was like, this can help me. And I still make exercise, as you know this, and I'm still like trying to work on it and learn more. But not because other people, but not because, that's the thing of bootcamp, is for you. Because I want my art to go to the level that I know I want. Not other people, but I know I want. Yeah. So I think that's what it make you like, okay, let me create this. And what do you see? Because you get to do this every year and see these amazing reactions or growth, how is it? Because it's like, I have to ask Julie, because you are on the other side.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And I will say that every year, like I get better at it too. Every year, the first year when somebody asked me a question, let's say about like saturation versus value or something, and I had kind of like a weird answer. And then the second year I was like very clear on what the difference is between saturation and value. And then the third year, do you know what I mean? I've got a chart about saturation and value. And like, so you know what I mean? It's like, I get better at all this stuff along the way too, which is a wonderful benefit. But I mean, I will also say this, which is the first thing I say at boot camp is also the last thing that I say to people. I don't know if you know that, but on the first day I say to everybody, I'm not your mother and I don't care whether or not you do the homework. Yeah. If you don't do the homework, you will not get as much out of the class. If you do the homework, then you will get more out of the class. And then people say, how long should I spend on the homework? And I say, the amount of time you spend on the homework is how much you will get out of the class. If you spend 6 hours on it, you'll get more.
And that's the thing about boot camp, right? And that's the thing about boot camp. What is amazing, the way you create it is solely related on your work. Because if you don't do the homeworks, it's hard to participate in boot camp. It's hard to grow.
Yeah, it is. It's a serious commitment of 5 weeks where you really just have to be doing this. Like it's there. And like, I will also say, so then the last thing I say at the end of boot camp is I say, I give you guys the exercise on limited compositions and stuff and talking about this. And the thing that I say is, now either you will keep up with this work and you will improve, or class is over and you won't keep up with the work and you won't improve. And that's your choice. But that is, again, about like, you have to do the work. There's that old quote that I often quote that I've always loved, which is, so many people miss opportunity because it comes disguised in overalls looking like work. So just like, I mean, listen, I would love to have an amazing body and flaunt it around in a bikini and the whole thing, but I don't want to do the
Yes.
work. I don't want to like eat the food and do the exercise and do all that stuff to get there. Everybody who has a great body like that has done the work. And I
Yes.
say, more, hooray for you. That
Hmm.
is fantastic. You look amazing. You have done the work. You deserve that. And I think the thing where we get mad or jealous or upset is when it appears that people haven't done the work and they just magically show up looking like that.
Yes.
They just magically
Yes.
have this great body and these amazing abs and this fantastic fit, you know what I mean? And so the same
Yes.
thing is going to be true with
It's
art, which
genetics. It's
is,
genetics.
yeah. And there is some of that, the same as like
Hmm.
there is true of some art. Some
But you
people
still
have
have
a
to work.
better, like,
You know,
have
genetics
more
not gonna
instincts.
build your muscle. You still have to
It's
work.
true. So the thing is, like, I'm willing to do the work for the art. I'm willing to do that. And I do that work every day. I do my art calisthenics. I do my art exercises. I open my sketchbook every day. I, think about things every day. And it's not always fun, but I'm there for it. And I think
Hmm.
that there's that in another old chestnut, which is also true, which is don't complain that you're not getting the results if you don't do the work.
Hmm.
And this is potentially why I'm not the right teacher for everyone. I think I'm very encouraging. I think I'm very positive, but I also think I'm very realistic about either
Yes.
you're doing the work or you're not.
Yes. I am testimony of this. Um, it is so amazing because it is so true. I think what you're talking about is what bootcamp opened my eyes to, because we know there is design or how to learn design big classes out there, um, but it is a different style. You have modules, and then you have to listen a class about what is contrast, and na 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 na. And I I will tell the truth. I came to bootcamp thinking it was going to be like that. And when you lay out things in the first meeting, I was like, what? And don't take me wrong here if you're listening. Julie does go with us and teach us things, but I really don't want to say anything more than that. I want to leave people curious because I so believe that people that want to grow, if you're listening to this, and listen, I don't think boot camp is just for painters. Do you think so, Julie? I don't think so.
And yeah, we've had all kinds of people in class who do
Right.
very different
Yeah,
things.
I think that boot camp is for you that, like me, got frustrated with all these classes that took you nowhere, right? But at the same time, it kicked my butt because I realized, well, I have to be very frustrated at times with my art, and I have to be very upset, and that's just the road of it. And not everybody wants to go through that road to be upset all the time, right?
Yeah, you have to make a lot of ugly stuff if you're not making
Yeah.
so okay, let's go back to the theater for a second. There's a wonderful experimental theater company called the City Company, run by a woman named Anne Bogart. And I once went to a talk that she gave, and she said that you have a choice when you're the artistic director of a company, which is you can make sort of 10 mediocre things that are like fine and enjoyable, you know what I mean, but nobody hates it, or you can make one amazing, life-changing, like just like rocket kind of just mind-blowing thing, and nine really crappy ones that people hate.
Hmm.
Because that choice is either to always sort of just like do what's safe, or the choice is to try things, to experiment, to do something that might blow up, and one time out of 10 it's amazing, but 9 times out of 10 it's crappy. And so she was saying that one of the lucky things about the City Company, because they're privately funded, is that they could do that. They
Mm.
could take those risks and have the flops because they didn't need the box office and the grants and the da da da, all that kind of stuff. And so I think like that also comes down to like, if you have to sell every painting that you create, then everything's going to be kind of mediocre because you're always
Hmm.
doing what's safe, what you know is going to sell.
Yeah.
But if you're experimenting and you're trying and it's not about selling the work and it's about growing, then you're going to have some brilliant work and a lot of really crappy work. But it's like you have
Mm.
so much crappy work within you, just get it out so you can get to the good ones.
Yeah. And because we from boot camp annoyed Julie so much asking for a second one, she did a second level one that is going to start. And I can't wait, already separated in my calendar. And it's sold out, right? It's sold out.
Mm-hmm.
And you release boot camp every year, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so if people really want to know what boot camps are when it's live, and Julie always does before boot camp is, when it's about to open or when it opens, she does a free kind of a webinar explaining to you and have some free videos about it. So I would go to her website and sign up for her newsletter, and which also is very nice newsletter that she sends. And I also follow her blog through the newsletter I sign up to receive by mail. So don't think that you have to go and, you can read all the blog posts through your email. But what is it about? Give a peek about Design Bootcamp 2. So after all this work, what people expect, by the way, you can just do Bootcamp 2 if you are part of Bootcamp 1, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So what Bootcamp 2 is about?
So, I'm afraid.
I'm a little afraid.
I had a lot of different classes that I wanted to teach because I was thinking, like, once you have this knowledge from Bootcamp 1, there are a whole host of different things that you could do. So then I started to think about what are the questions that I have most often gotten from people? What are the things and the skills and what are the things that I've done that have been sort of the most helpful to me? And so I came up with this idea, which I think is awesome. So Bootcamp 2 is called Steal Like an Artist.
Yeah.
And it's all about learning how to break down other people's work and steal parts of it for yourself. Now, we were talking about very ethical stealing, in which we're not actually like copying people's work and passing it off as our own, but it's like understanding that, let's say you picked Monet as someone that you admire, understanding like,
which I do.
What is it about Monet that you like? Is it his color palette? Is it his use of brush strokes? Is it his composition? Is it, like really, really figuring out what you like and then figuring out how you can repurpose. And again, it's that synthesizing it through that you filter that's so key to this. So we're going to be doing a lot of work in figuring out how you, interact and change the chemistry of what you're taking in.
I'm afraid already of the homeworks.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be epic.
Yeah. And everybody that does boot camp is like, oh, the homework. And it's always like at the end when she's going to say, okay, and this is what for your homework. And everybody in the Zoom is like, what is she going to make us do? I'm the one that I'm very dramatic. I'm like, So... because I do have that fear first when you say, I'm like, I have that fear. But when you sit and go do it, you kind of like, I can do this.
Yeah, because the homework seems intimidating because the purpose of every homework assignment, the way that I construct the assignments is to force you to learn the idea. And so it's scary because you are having to like, not just like intellectually read about something or hear about it and kind of get it. You're having to physically manifest how that rule actually plays out within your art. And that is scary and hard.
Yeah, it's very. So people, I would highly recommend if you do want to grow, please, please, please take a look at Bootcamp, sign up for the waiting list. And I tell you, it's worth every single penny, every single one.
Thanks, Jana.
And to finish here, something that it touched me a lot because you said that, when we have the members monthly video or when you were doing a live video on Instagram, whatever, YouTube, you always say, thanks for supporting me. Thanks for coming. I am the sole breadwinner of my house. And always when you say that, I'm like, kind of, yes. Because as women, we are, it's not many of us, of you that are we still have that patriarchal kind of in society, that man that is the one. But when you kind of see in your family that you have to do the things that you have to do in order for each one of you guys to accomplish what they want to accomplish, in your case, your husband is studying, right? So why do you like to say that and remind people, because I think it's so important, because also I think we have to support women. I try to buy from small businesses, from women, and even for clothing or things like that. And why do you think that is important?
Like, I think there are a couple things. I mean, one, I think that there is a resistance by many people to pay for content. There's the
Yes.
idea that everything should be free and that people, shouldn't have to pay for it. And the fact is, just like you have to pay a doctor to go and
Mm-hmm.
see them, or you have to, pay a restaurant when you eat their food, somebody is doing the work to create this content. The other thing is, there are so many incredibly talented, amazing people out there who are making content for free because they don't need to make money at it,
Mm-hmm.
because they have a day job that, allows them to do it, because they have a partner who supports them, because. And I know this because I was in that position many years ago with my ex-husband, where he made the money and I didn't really have to make any money. So I was able to do tons and tons and tons of free stuff constantly and not worry about it. And, for me, I think it's important for people to know, like, the reason my prices are what they are is because this is my job. It's not a
Mm-hmm.
hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and so I try in a very non-aggressive way. People who can't pay or don't want to, that's fine. But, for people who can, it makes a big difference in our lives, that
Mm-hmm.
$5.99 a month for membership, or anything else. And I will say, like, I think that, um, being the breadwinner as a woman, especially in this kind of job, is very unusual. I
Yeah.
remember when I was, people often say to me some version of, "Oh, and you make a living at that?"
Yes.
Which I'm always like, "Okay, thank you." And I think, there are other times when, like, I've had people, there was a woman who was interested in private coaching, and she said, "Can we get on Zoom to see if we're a good fit?" And I said, "No. I'm happy to answer any specific questions that you have. I welcome you to check out any of my hundreds of free videos on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to have you come to the group coaching or a membership thing, but no." And she was kind of persistent about it. And I basically said, "I'm a professional. This is my job. Do you think that if you said to the doctor or the dentist or a therapist, I'd like to have a half an hour session with you for free just to see if we're a good fit? I'd like you to give me a haircut for free to see if I like you," that they would do it? No, every single one of those professionals would say no. And this is no different.
Yeah.
So, I give away a ton of free content. I write a
Yes. That's
blog all the
true.
time.
There's
I
a
do
YouTube
YouTube
here.
videos,
Yeah. The
and there's
blog.
tons and tons of free stuff for people who can't or won't pay. But I do think that it is important to remind people that this is your job and you make a living off of it. And if they want to help support you,
Mm-hmm.
not that you're a charity, but to get something in return, then they can.
Yeah. I thought it was important for me personally to have this question, because it is, women have to be more proud that they are the breadwinner and they are doing this as a job, and they are, working, because sometimes we are kind of, yeah, I,
Yeah.
I
Oh, I just
sell. Yeah.
yeah.
So that was important to me. So, Julie, what's coming up for you? Do you have any new class coming up, or?
So here's my exciting and sexy story, which is I'm taking a little bit of a break right
Oh,
now.
good for you.
I know. So I have boot camp 2 coming up in like a month. And
And
then
you
in
just
December,
finished one, or are still
I
running the one?
just finished one. And then the Carb December class, there'll be a new version of it this December, which I'm really excited about. But
Mm,
my plan, if I can stay, I keep wanting to teach classes, and Steve, my partner, keeps being like, "Stop it. You said you were going to take some time off." So theoretically, I'm not going to teach any classes between now and December other than boot camp 2, but we'll see. In the
well,
meantime, I'm still blogging. I still have my YouTube channel has new
yes.
video every week,
And as you saw before that I showed here on video, she has plenty of classes for you to try.
Mhm.
Also, if you go to the membership on the 599 level, it's a new video every month. But what I like is that you can ask questions and Julie will answer and demo. But there's all kinds of questions every month. So sometimes when you don't have questions, you demo things. So I think it's very worth the price to do that. And as I said, it helps also. No, we have to support women. We have to support women, especially in these times. Times are crazy. Things are so expensive right now. But I'm good that you're taking a break because you are so prolific.
I know. I have to say, like, I was feeling a little bit like it was just a lot of stuff. I think the year of gelatin printing class, which has more than 200 videos, was just that really like was a lot of
That was a
content.
long
I mean,
class. Yeah,
a
and I
lot of
also want to remind people that the gelatin class, you can also buy the classes, you know, separated, right? You don't need to buy the whole thing, so you can check that out.
content.
Julie, I'm so honored that you came here to talk to me. It means a lot. I really admire a lot your work, and I so appreciate the work you have been doing with me. And I've seen amazing growth on my art thanks to your work with me, and I appreciate it.
Oh, thanks, Jenna. I appreciate you. You're always so enthusiastic, so hardworking, so interested, so curious, and that is always a wonderful thing as a teacher too. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.